prior to an event that we had recently. About 2 weeks ago, we had the Independence Day celebration. And that was our target date to begin an organization that would help in alleviating bereavement.
And we know that we've all experienced the difficulty that follows the death of a loved one while living abroad. We're talking about funeral expenses, expenses of transporting the body, and the heartbreak of what happens to surviving family members. Our societies have mostly relied on fundraisers and donations to assist the affected families. And this has, however, not always been as effective. With a lot of Kenyan families having moved to the US, it has become common for people to get up to 5 funeral donation requests every month on their WhatsApp messages. Now, to help us better understand the depths of this issue and maybe how to solve it is ALLAN KIGURU KIMANI. Now, ALLAN is the chair of for Maryland Kenyans organization, also known as MDKO. MDKO is a non-profit that mobilizes funding for charitable work within the Kenyan community. Their main mission is to provide assistance to distressed Kenyans and eliminate the need for fundraisers amongst the Kenyan community. ALLAN, karibu sana to the OneMicShow. How are you feeling today?
Asante sana. I'm feeling comfortable.
Okay.
You better.
Introduce politics.
Okay.
And we'll go there, no problem.
Yeah, like
soft intro.
yeah.
So it was a soft intro.
Yes.
Yeah.
But first, let me say thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. This is on behalf of MDKO. Because it's not just me. We are a community. I have a whole team of 11 committee members that run the organization.
Okay.
And there was no better time. I'll say the OneMicShow. This was a good opportunity because we're in the middle of our annual registration. We typically have that in July.
Okay.
So we have 10 more days to the end of the month.
So it's a certain window. It's like
Yes.
registering for Obamacare.
Yes.
There's a window to
Or
do
health
it.
insurance.
Okay.
31 days in July. That's it.
Okay, the 31 days in
Yes.
July. Okay, so important. We're gonna get into details of that. But before we get to those to the meat and bones and MDKO and how it handles death emergencies, just briefly tell us who is ALLAN KIGURU KIMANI. In very briefly, for those maybe who don't know you outside being the chair of
Can I say?
MDKO.
I'm not going to allow Mosh to say anything. Mosh,
All right, so Mosh, pause.
yes.
Let Allan speak for himself first.
just for disclosure,
Yes.
I knew Mosh before we both came to the US because we grew up in the same community. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to allow him to introduce.
Okay, so was that like in the 70s?
And we went to the same primary school. I don't know. Oh, Pole.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
so mmetoka mbali.
Yes.
Okay.
Njostaki ya kueniana introduce.
Okay, sawa.
it's because he's gonna talk about
Siliona
the
lichoma.
other
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
sikuchoma ni
Go ahead.
But anyway, in a nutshell, my name's KIGURU KIMANI, ALLAN. I'm a Kenyan, electrical engineer by profession,
Okay.
community leader, and one that is passionate about bringing the community together. I believe when all is said about me, I've been very much in the forefront of trying to bring the Kenyan community in Maryland together for several years. I've been here in Maryland. I came to Baltimore in 1990, so I've been here for
Wow, that's a long time.
quite some time.
Yeah, some people even in the studio might not have been born.
There was a young man
Yeah.
here that I know probably wasn't born then.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, that's who I am. Someone that's very passionate about Kenya.
Okay.
That's why I think politics always plays a part when we have discussions with one Mike. He's always told me, he says that I've been fearful of coming here to talk about politics, but I'm very passionate. People know me in terms of making a decision, but I believe that what matters is that you stand for something. You don't have to be right.
Okay.
Just stand for
But
something.
you have to stand for
Yeah,
something.
stand for something.
You can't
Yeah.
just be sitting on the fence.
Nah,
Okay.
stand for something
All right.
and
Good.
support.
Okay. Now that's where the politics conversation is going to come in the social segment. But right now, I want you to tell us maybe what inspired the formation of Maryland Kenyans organization, that's MDKO. And maybe you can also give us some details of what distinguishes it from mainstream insurance companies that are out there that offer death benefits, and maybe other existing benevolent funds that are started by Kenyans. Allan.
Okay, the idea came about, we started having that conversation, I think it was in 2015. And this came about because of, you mentioned earlier that probably on a monthly basis, people get you get put in multiple groups for fundraisers for benevolence.
Up to 5 or even more.
And a group of us started having a conversation that we needed to better organize our community in terms of how we source for those funds when somebody has a bereavement. And I recall, I think it was in the year running up to the 2017 election, Njiru Githai was the current ambassador, and he had an event, I think it was in Damascus, and he challenged, the reason I say that is because you said, how it compares to other insurances and other programs that are out there. And one that I know also services the community is the Africa Welfare Association. And Moriah was challenged by Githai to come up with a model that will help, because we have a lot of Kenyans that are here not adequately, documented, and therefore would not qualify for traditional insurance.
Okay.
And that's where the whole genesis started. So in 2019, when we began the MDKO, we had introduced Moriah to an event that we had recently. About 2 weeks ago, we had the Independence Day celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our target date to begin an organization that would help in alleviating bereavement. So we sat down, a team of us, and I'd like to thank, I was not originally the chair. The original chair was Thomas Mwaura. Probably you guys have heard of him. He tried to run for state senate. He was the original chair.
Yes, and he's also sat on the same chair that you sat when he was running for senate.
Yes, so it was a team of us, him, Julia, chair. There's a whole list. If you look at, and I'll keep referring to the flyer, there's a whole list of committee members. We sat together and said we have to come up with a model that would better suit what our community needs are. For instance, if you go for traditional insurance, you're required to have a monthly payment. It's a bill, you have a monthly payment.
Okay.
Number 2, you have to have been adequately documented. So if people don't have the documents, then they cannot be covered.
Okay.
And we looked around and found out it's not just actually here in Maryland. We have this community in North Carolina that has a similar model.
Okay.
There are communities in Texas that had a similar model. So we didn't, generate or reinvent the wheel. We got other communities that had started up something and came up with a model that fits what we have here in Maryland.
Now that's very interesting. Before I bring in the rest of the panel, there's something that you mentioned there that actually arrested my attention, and it was the issue of documentation, which is something that maybe most of us have not quite thought about because maybe we are properly documented. So the distinguishing part of your organization is that you say that you accept Kenyans who are here bila makaratasi. They can comfortably come and register there, and you will not ask for social security numbers or maybe those other details that a traditional insurance company might ask for.
That's correct.
But
because
what would you ask?
They have a source document that is legitimately Kenyan. They have passports.
Okay.
They have
Okay.
IDs.
An ID.
Okay.
Yeah. And even in our qualifying process for the bereavement support, some of the documentation you have to submit may not be local.
Okay.
Like for instance, we require burial permits that are not issued here. Here you have, working burial death certificate.
Okay.
But in Kenya, they issue burial permits, and it's one of the requirements we have to have before we release any benevolence assistance to any bereaved member.